refreshments. Make sure you have a drink if you need it. You're welcome to get up if you need to anyway. Okay. Good evening and welcome. I'm Ellen Clarkson, President of the Friends of the Peabody Institute Library, where you are right now. We are so pleased to have you here at the Friends Annual Meeting of 2025. After a short business meeting, we will have our guest speaker, author Joanne Hart, Joanne, who will talk about her most recent book, Arroyo Circle. We also have sign language interpreters to assist with the author's presentation, and obviously me speaking also. This is provided by a grant given to the Peabody Institute Library of Danvers. The 2024-25 year has been a very busy year for the Friends, and this is my second year as president, and once again, with the support of the fantastic people that make up the board of the Friends, it has gone okay. I would like to introduce you to the board to you, so when you hear your name, wave or stand up. Michelle Trossi, Vice President. Yay, Michelle. Ivy Butterworth, Recording Secretary. She'll be saying that. Pat Baker, Treasurer. And we have some directors here. We have Trudy Cullen. All right, Trudy. Kathy Young. And we have Lynette Gray, unfortunately, who's not here tonight. And also a heartfelt thank you to both Lynette Gray, our membership chair, and Kathy Young, our hospitality chair, for all the valuable work to make the Friends work smoothly also. Next, we have a report from our library director, Noelle Hopp, another person who has been an awesome supporter of the Friends.
Thank you, Ellen. So as she said, I'm Noelle Bach. I'm the library director. I know a lot of you already here. So I am just going to share a few little highlights of the last year at the library, and then I'm going to run away to the trustees meeting elsewhere at 7 o'clock, so I'll be double booked today. So just some interesting facts, numbers for the library. So in the last fiscal year, we were open 3,279 hours. We had 284,555 visits to the library. We had 324,373 materials checked out. We had 9,492 people attend our programs, including adults, children's, and teens, and half of that number is definitely children's programs, for sure. So, as you can tell from just like a little snapshot of numbers, we are a very well-used place. And I do always like to give lots of props to the Friends because they do so much extra to make the library a really wonderful place, and they support us in any way that we need support, and they make sure to like bring some really great programming to the library or support us if we ask for help in programming. The children's mural that we have on the back wall when you go out the door, like that's something that they helped fund. So they are willing and able to do anything, and they always have the best desserts that they bring to all of the events. So I love the Friends. I go to all of their board meetings, and I find them just a wonderful group of people to work with. And so if you are interested in joining the Friends, helping out with the Friends, I completely say do it. They're a great group to work with, and we always need more ideas and more people who are willing to hey, this is a different idea for fundraising. Because all the money that they raise it use for the library. So we can't do some of the things that we do without the Friends. So I always like to say that. A couple other things that we want to just highlight at the library. So we got this year. So we were mentioning that this ASL interpretation comes from a grant that is an LSTA grant, is what we call it. And so you might have heard some of this in the news. But the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is an agency, federal agency, which is currently, they're trying to cut. That money that we have for this grant to pay for the interpreters, to pay for the counter loops that we have on our desks and things like that, that comes from that group, the IMLS. So, luckily it's a 2-year grant, so I already have the money in the bank for that. I don't have to worry about it. But that's some of that use of that kind of money comes directly to us, stuff like that affects us directly. So I do encourage people to reach out to their, not to be too political, but just to say, but for libraries, I will be, reach out to your Congress people and just say like you would like them to support the Institute of Museum and Library Services, just because there's no real good reason to get rid of it, and it's like 87 cents per person. That's how much it's costing Americans, so it's not a lot of money. So protect our libraries, that's what I say. Besides that as well, so the Friends, as you know, and I know Ellen will talk some more about this, do provide the library with museum passes. If you haven't used museum classes, you should totally do it. I went to the Museum of Fine Arts not that long ago, and it would have cost me $54 for 2 of us to go, and it was only $20 using the museum pass. So it's fantastic to have them. We just added some new passes, but I'll let Ellen, I won't steal Ellen's thunder, I'll let her talk about the new ones that we just got. As you also know, the library is more than just books. We do have some things like the Library of Things, which if you haven't seen, it's over by the front door on the first floor. We have everything from cooking, like sewing machines, we have like hot pots, we have, we're adding a microscope, we've got all sorts of like things, blood pressure monitors, and what's the thing I was, therapy lights, those lamp therapy lights, and things like that. We have all sorts of stuff like that, games, lots and lots of games that you can check out. That, and like now that the weather's getting nicer, we have outside games, as well. We have a tent if you like to go camping. We have all sorts of really wonderful things that you can use that you can check out from your library, from Library Things. We've been really going bonkers with our community outreach. And that position, so you will see someone from the library usually out and about at any event that we have. Whether we don't have to have it, but if you go to any town events, you will see somebody from the library there most of the time. And we also go and have Jillian is her name. She'll also go and do visits at the different facilities around town, like Brightview and Charter. And she brings books, and you can check out things through her as well, and Senior Center. So those are some of the things that we have going on too. And some of the new things that we just added a, the common name that you'll know it by is Narcan. And so the Public Health Department is putting around town, the library just happens to be one of the sites, they're putting around town boxes that have Narcan in it so that they are for the public to take. They are not for the library to be like, well, hopefully never using on anybody. Hopefully that does not happen. It has not happened before. But the Narcan is there, so if you want to, you can go up to the first floor. It's over by the CDs are, and you want to have Narcan to carry in your car or your bag or something like that to have or to give out to people that might need it. We have also fentanyl test strips, so it's not a happy thing to have that, have to have that available, but it's like important, like this is like a notable thing to say this is a place, you can come to the library, these are things that you can get, that's really important services, that people do need that, and it's important that we're making things available while we can, and where we can, and that's all from the health department, so we don't fill that box, like that's something that we work with the health department to fill up and give out. And the last thing I'll just mention is summer's coming, so is summer reading. So if you haven't participated before, so we have a children's summer reading program, we have a teen summer reading program, and we also have an adult summer reading program. And I don't know for sure, because we haven't fleshed everything out yet, but usually the adult summer reading program, we have a raffle prize every week that we give away. And all you have to do is basically write down the name of a book you just read and put it in the box. And we pick a winner every week, and your name also will go into for a big grand prize basket that we'll have for the end of the summer as well. So the adult program is like probably the easiest of all the programs to participate in. But we will be having that up and running, so usually by like that third week of June, you can start seeing the summer reading programs kicking into gear as well. But as I say, I am very grateful for the Friends. I consider them friends as well as just being a fundraising group. I think they're a wonderful group of people, and I hope that if you're not a member yet, that you do join, and if you are already a member, that you get your friends and get them to join too. And I know they'll be talking about the book sale is coming up in just a few weeks. So if you have books at home and you're waiting to donate, your chance is coming very soon. So that's always like our big highlight of the year too. So. Thank you so much for listening and your attention. As I said, I'm going to run away to go to another meeting. But I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sad to not get to see our wonderful author tonight, but I'm sure she's going to be fantastic. You can see her right there smiling at me. And we did order her books. They have not all come in yet, so you can put them on order though. You can put them on hold, but they're not here tonight, so I apologize for that. But they did not come in time. But you can get them, so I'm sure she'll talk about them tonight. So thank you again so much, and I will see you all soon. And feel like my door is open, so if anybody ever wants to come visit me, I'm up on the first floor. Feel free to visit me anytime. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Noelle. You said everything I was going to say. I tried to put this right down. I just have it right down. I will cover some of the topics you did. We're resuming from where I left off, okay? Getting back to the Friends have had, first of all, thank you for all coming. That's the big part. Good to see everybody here. The Friends have had a very active year and have an expanded calendar of events, and we have increased our collaboration with the Peabody Institute Library of Danvers. Our membership continues to be strong. We have 91 people that are members, and if anybody wants to join, it's right over there. Those ladies will gladly take you. Of the 19, we have 14 that are new members. That was previous to tonight. And our members come from the Danvers community as well as the community surrounding us. Anyone who's interested in joining, to see those two ladies over there, they've got the information. And you can join us for as little as $20 for an individual. Let's see. The primary program, which once again Noelle mentioned, is our Museum Pass program. This year we are proud because we now offer 18 museum passes. This past year we added the Harvard Museums of Science and Culture in Cambridge, the Trustees of the Reservations, and the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, along with this old standbys, the Peabody Essex Museum, the Wenham Museum, the MFA, the New England Aquarium, the Children's Museum, and there are many more, and these lists on the tables of those. Our total usage of all our passes between May of 2024 and April of this year was 1,222 people took out. And of that, last year we had 1,119, so we're improving. We've increased quite a bit since COVID. And there was 832 patrons that used the passes. Obviously, some of those used them multiple times. That's a good thing. So the average use, once again, the map pieces, it's 100 per month. Figure 100 people going from here into Boston or wherever they were going. It's exciting. The program works and it's excellent use of our funds. I can't be happier. These passes offer substantial savings to families and individuals, as Noelle attested to. And once again, there's lists on the table, and do yourself a favor and your family, take an adventure and take a pass and go somewhere and get some enjoyment. In addition to offering this community benefit, the Friends have been able to sponsor several programs the library might not have been otherwise. One was how to draw a Pokemon, which you may not be interested in, but the elementary and middle schoolers were, and they had a good turnout. And this morning in here was Bliss Music Concert. It's a family, parent, mom and young child, parent and child event, and that was well attended. These programs are financially possible through Friends memberships and our annual book sale, and a grant from the Danvers Community Council via the Mass Cultural Council. This year, we once again did a fundraiser at the Texas Roadhouse, though it was not successful as due to the weather, which was February snowstorm, so we didn't do well. But it still added funds to our program, and we'd like to continue those types of additional funding events. And these funds help to continue on more of our programs. Some of the highlights. We did a joint venture in September with the Danvers Historical Society, a talk by Eric J. Dolan of Marblehead. He's the author of Rebels at Sea, and that was a kickoff to the 250th celebration. We also did a Celebrating Black History Month concert with music from the Black South. There was standing room only. It was fantastic. And we also did an oral history workshop that helped women, or mostly women who were there, but people start their own history, their own stories. And then we did a collaboration between the Danvers High School theater production of Mean Girls and the NAN project that paired musical numbers and a talk discussion on bullying. That too was very informative and well attended. And we did the most recent one was a family event at Endicott Park with Ranger Ryan and Mickey and their book, The Day at Endicott Park. And we had young children with their parents, and that was fun. And in April, we celebrate our library staff who are fantastic for National Library Week. The Friends also connected with the community through the annual holiday open house and our book sale, which Noelle mentioned also. Our book drop-off days this year start on June 2nd, and the preview for members will be June 10th, with the sale continuing through Saturday, June 14th. Please help support the sale. It's one of our main main Friends fundraiser of the year. Sorry about that. And there's also on your seats, there's information on the dates. And going forward, we've done these programs, and now we've got programs ahead that we're pre-planning already. We're very busy. The little friends are scurrying around getting things set up. We're going to have a family concert this summer in August. Steve Blunt and Friends at the Danvers Summer Concert Series. It'll be right on the lawn out here with the other. Each week they have a couple of concerts. And then we'll have a return to the oral history workshop. And then we'll have the Delvina Theater presenting True Eleanor in October, a classical musical concert in November. And that's about it right now that we've got scheduled that we'll let you know about. Once again, I want to thank you all for being here. And now we go to our, this is a business part of our meeting. We need to, the members need here, if you have seen the minutes from last month's meeting, we need to vote to accept it. So I need from a member, motion to accept the meetings and one that will accept. So who wants to, motion to, okay, motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, we have another issue that came up the other day. Noelle mentioned the summer reading program. We sponsor, we support, we have supported in the past the summer reading program in the children's room. This year, the librarian Chelsea Shepard from the children's room has moved up to the teen program. And she would like to have the teens take part. So she is looking for funding to get the needed materials. Let's see, yeah. The needed materials that she needs. So we need, as members of the Friends, need to approve the expenditure of $200 to Chelsea Shepard and the teen summer reading program. So I need someone to.
I make motion to accept.
Judy does the motion, and then we need someone to second it. Ian Casey will second it. And everybody, is that approved? All approved?
Yes.
Okay, that's our business. This is typically what we do on our monthly meeting. So when you come, we talk, and then we go to issues. So we'd love to have you here. The next thing is our treasurer report. And the treasurer, if you've gotten the handouts, they were out there. So you would have
Something like this?
yeah, if you need that.
Okay. Hey, good evening. My name is Pat Baker, and I have the pleasure of being the treasurer, which means I have the checkbook.
You have to speak into the
Yeah,
microphone.
All right. Good? Okay. So if you have a copy of the treasurer's report, you'll see we're really pretty flush with cash right now, which is great. We have our bankings over at M&T. So we have a checking account, we have a savings account, just to get that little minuscule bit of interest. And then we bought a CD last October, which also gets us a little bit of interest on our money. So right now, we have $21,840. What we have so far allocated between now and the end of the year, and again, we keep coming in with new programs, so these numbers will change. We have 3 museum passes that will come in this summer, totaling $1,400. So Ellen, I'd like approvals, since this is our last meeting before the summer, to approve the New England Aquarium. This is what the numbers were last year. New England Aquarium was $650. Zoo New England, which is both the one in Boston and Stoneham, was $400, and North Shore Children's was $350.
And I think, I'm not 99% sure we did that the last meeting.
We did that? Okay,
Yeah.
they're approved.
And you're all set.
All right. The programs that we have coming up that have already been allocated funds is Joanne this evening, Steve Blunt concert in August, Truly Eleanor play, and classical music. So as you're thinking of exciting things to do this fall, please bring them to us because we really do have the funds to support them. Second sheet I have is the budget update. So the first column is what we spent in 2024, what we budgeted for 2025, and then the year-to-date. So we're really on track financially to meet our goals, and again, now we have a little bit more money than we anticipated, so we really can look at expanding our offerings. Any questions, concerns? I think I checked my math pretty well, but, okay, great.
And then, after Pat, we will be doing nominations, but before we step to the nominations, I want to recognize Ivy Butterworth. She's been our employment secretary this year, and it was new to her, and she made it through. But she's moving and she's changing her lifestyle, so we won't be as strong into it as we used to be. So I want to say thank you for your service with us. Much appreciated. We know we harassed you and we gave you all kinds of stuff. Thank you. So welcome to well, that comes next. And now, we have Michelle, trustee vice president. She will deal with the nominations. This is a big deal about why we're here. And she has the replacement person for us. I'm here.
Okay, I have the nomination, the slate for the Board of Directors. President, myself, Michelle Chauncey, Vice President, Ellen Clarkson, Recording Secretary, Sharon Jaworski, Treasurer, Patricia Baker continues, and Directors Lynette Gray, Kathleen Young, and Trudy Cullen. Do I have a motion to accept the slate?
Yes.
Seconded?
Ann Casey accepts the slate. And seconded, Trudy
Okay,
Collins.
Trudy Cullen.
Well, actually, you're one,
Oh.
so.
Okay, Marcia.
Oh, she can't, because she voted herself.
Okay, all in favor of this new slate?
Aye.
Thank you. And so I wanted to take a minute to thank Ellen Clarkson for her tenure as president. She reminds me of the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, because Ellen would just, she shows up for everything, she will do whatever. She's shown real leadership and visibility for the Friends. And this is sort of just impromptu because you're not leaving, but I do want to thank you, and I'm sure everyone here really appreciates your service. I also want to welcome Sharon Jaworski to the board as our new secretary. Welcome. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to a great book sale and a good year ahead, so thank you.
You got one? Okay. All right, so this concludes our business part of the meeting, and we're going to take a few minutes to get coordinated, and we will have our speaker. Okay, so if you need to refresh your drinks.
Please get some refreshments.
Go.
I'm quite pleased to introduce this evening's guest speaker, award-winning Gloucester-based author Joanne Hart. Through the power of fiction, Joanne writes about the pervasive and widespread effects of the climate crisis on the natural world and the human psyche. In addition to her latest novel, Arroyo Circle, Joanne's other books include the prize-winning environmental and animal fiction collection High Wire Act and Other Tales of Survival, the crime memoir Stanford 76, a true story of murder, corruption, race, and feminism in the 1970s, as well as Float, a dark comedy about plastics, and Addled, a social satire. Her work explores the relationship between humans, their environments, and the more than human world. Joanne will read from Arroyo Circle, a story of reclamation in a time of loss, and then speak about how narrative, fiction or nonfiction, is the best way for people to grasp something as big and scary as climate change. The Friends were thrilled to have her with us today. Please welcome Joanne Hart.
Michelle, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Libraries are like my happy place. They're the best institution that we have in America right now. I mean, they are community centers, they're the bastions, the last bastions of democracies. They are vitally important. I'm involved in my library in Gloucester. We're getting a big shiny new one, and I've been working for fundraising for making it sustainable. And I'm going to go view the solar roofs soon, in a couple of weeks. So it's, I love libraries. My book will be here soon, copies of A Royal Circle, looks like this. But you can get it anywhere online, or all local bookstores have it. I always discourage Amazon. I think they're just evil. But the bookshop.org is the best online resource for any book, because then you designate your local bookstore and they get a cut of that profit. So, so there's my public service. Oh yeah, another public service announcement. That libraries are really under siege right now. Their funding's cut. All the grants have been cut. Call your representatives and demand, all the grants that have already been allocated, and continue full funding for America's libraries. I mean, this is what makes America America. Is these wonderful community centers. You can get not just books, but even a hot pot. So I'd like to just start by saying, like maybe you're not familiar with climate or eco-fiction, environmental fiction. I also write a lot of animal fiction. I take in rescue livestock, so animals always figure in everything I write. My very first novel, in fact, was how Canada geese infiltrated a country club, and how they were trying to get rid of them. And so I arrive here and we hear the call of the Canada geese right out here. We went to visit them, and we noticed that they were all mated pairs with no babies. So it means that somebody's been addling those eggs, that they're not producing any, which is probably just as well for the caretakers. So, so I have always been involved in the environment since, in the early 70s. In high school, I was there. I remember the first Earth Day. I think I was a sophomore in high school. And back then, the dangers to the environment were quite clear, because you could see, the pollution. It was everywhere. It was visible, with particulates in the air, and trash was everywhere. So it was like the Earth had become an eyesore. But since that time, it's actually become much more lethal, because we don't even see the dangers anymore. You can't see the gases that are killing us and the planet. So it's just something that's just always been on my mind, is that the state of the Earth, and how do we keep it livable, not just for us, but we make it inhabitable for us. It means it's not habitable for anything else, what we call the other than human world, or the non-human world, meaning not just animals but vegetation. And so, but increasingly, everything that I write, I really am thinking about the weather, what the climate, what my characters are living in. Climate fiction, it's like the same as any fiction, any novel. It's got to have a good plot, it's got to have really fascinating characters, it's got to have humor, satisfying ending. But then among any other obstacle that you put in the way of your characters, because that's really what fiction is obstacles to your characters, that your obstacles also feature a climate. In other words, on top of their going about their daily living, they are also having to deal with wildfires and floods and too much heat, and so it's just one more obstacle. And this is a climate fiction. This is set in contemporary times, starts in 2019 and goes to like 2020. Actually enters the pandemic, but there's also what I write a little bit of that is enormously popular right now is speculative fiction, where you speculate what the Earth is going to be like in like 10 or 20 years or 100 years, and so it's you're writing about the future, and it's not like science fiction where there's aliens, but it's a greatly changed environment. The Germans have a long word for if this goes on type fiction. And so that's different than how do we cope in a drastically altered environment as it is, our environment is altered as it is and getting increasingly worse. But I still have hope. I don't know why, because we have to have, we have to go on. We have to be able to put one foot in front of the other. So I do believe that we got ourselves into this mess. Hopefully we can get ourselves out of it in time without dragging all the other creatures down with us. The Earth is going to survive. I mean, Earth will be fine. It would be a lot better off without us. And so it doesn't care about whether humans, survive through this and this mess that we've made. And so and that's why you see all the billionaires rushing to find a place on Mars, because they, rather than try to fix and easily fixable. I mean, mind you, it's easily fixable. All we have to do is lower our carbon load, and we can turn this around. It's actually going to get worse before it gets any better, because there's a 20, 30-year time lag. I do the narrative, meaning like in a novel or even a nonfiction narrative, is probably the best way for people to really grasp what goes on in the climate and what is happening, because scientific data is very dry. It's very hard to understand. A lot of dry reporting about the climate crisis. And so it is the best way for, so basically those of us who write climate fiction, we do all that research for you. So we just read all the dry stuff, and we all, every one of us, we love research, we love science, we just like get into the weeds with all of this. And then we store all this information in our heads and then create a story. And because the story is the best way for most people to understand any issue. We humans are hardwired for narrative, to tell us a story, basically gossip. I mean, that is a hardwired thing. Narrative is hardwired, and how are you today? And somebody will tell you, well, I woke up. And then I brushed my teeth and I tripped, and then that's how my day started. And so, people tell you their stories all the time, and that's how we take in, the best way we take in our information. We don't take it in very well reading dry stuff. Some of us like it. And so this particular novel, Royal Circle, which so this is set in Boulder, Colorado. I lived in Boulder for a couple of years and went back my whole life. My mother-in-law was there, and I have friends there. I just did a reading at the Boulder bookstore. But I hadn't realized, because I'm so familiar with the West, I hadn't realized that no one knows how to pronounce Arroyo. And even I'm pronouncing it for an Anglo pronunciation. I can't roll my R's as it should be pronounced. My publisher for this book is, it's a small press called Green Writers Press in Vermont. And we were and putting out a book takes a long time, and it's layers and layers of many, and you go down a lot of different editors you're working with. And throughout this whole time, the publisher never admits that she doesn't know how to say this word. Until she's starts stumbling over it in public, you know, before the book comes out, and like, and she's going, all right, and then starts looking at me. I'm like, no. I mean, she never mentioned it. No, and then I turned out all the editors, none of the editors knew how to actually say the word, and they all had to look it up. And nobody had ever suggested to me, well, are you sure this is the title? If it's gonna be like sold outside of the West, too late now. So, then the title has meaning for me. Arroyo is, for those who may not know, it's a dry gulch. It's water comes through it seasonally in the West with the snow melt. They're wild, dangerous things. You can be walking along a dry gulch and all of a sudden just drown. That it can happen so quickly. And then Circle also just is, this is an address where most of the action happens, and it's a cul-de-sac, and there's a lot of circular things going on. And for this book, I started, and they take a long time to write. I took 7 years to write. I kind of started in 2014 when my brother died, and my brother was a homeless alcoholic for most of his life. And so this is sort of a way, and Les is the scientist in the book. He is a homeless alcoholic, and had been a scientist, or as he says, no, he doesn't work at NOAA anymore. He is still a scientist. NOAA is, we all know NOAA from Gloucester, but there's NOAAs all over, and the biggest one is in Boulder, and they're the ones who predict hurricanes. And the administration is dismantling it because they think that NOAA is the main driver of the, the climate crisis industry, and that they, it stands in the way of U.S. prosperity, and it's basically being dismantled, which I, of course, didn't even know when I was writing this, that this was going to be in the future. So, so there was that, my brother, and then, I had this anecdote that I'd always wanted to use, that a friend of mine in Boulder that was a house manager for somebody wealthy in Boulder, and she was doing their shopping, and she is driving away from the supermarket, and the police surround her and stop her and at gunpoint, and make her pop open her hood without telling her why they have stopped her. Police dogs are there, and she's just like terrified. It turned out they had also surrounded her house, and where her retired husband was. A SWAT team was around the house, and they make her open the hood of the car, and it popped open, and so they look in, and they see kitty litter, and that somebody had seen her put this big thing of kitty litter in the supermarket and thought it was a baby. They thought you kidnapped a baby. And when the husband, when he asked the police, like, what's going on, he goes, your wife has kidnapped a baby. And he's like, well, she doesn't even like babies. So I'd always wanted to use that. I've twisted it around. It fits in with, thematically, with themes of, like, not taking care of earth and home, that Les has no home, and that Shelley, the main character, is she works for wealthy people. I have made them hoarders because I'm familiar with hoarding, and I've always seen hoarding as like a sort of warped extension of late-stage capitalism. That in fact hoarding is a natural extension of that, because our drive towards accumulation of stuff is what's driving the climate crisis, because all stuff is based on fossil fuels. Until we change that, just this like disturbing accumulation is, I've always felt like hoarding is closely tied in, like a good metaphor for what we're doing to the earth. So home features in a great deal in all of this, homelessness, hoarding home, Shelley's home here on Arroyo Circle, which she doesn't even get to live in at some point because, you know, as her series of obstacles, all of which begin, you know, when I use the anecdote at the beginning of the book with the baby in the trunk, it's also that wildfires have come into Boulder, which had been rare when I started the book, and they really had never gone over the ridge. But since then, they've jumped the ridge 3 times. And so that's how fast things are changing. And so the obstacle, it's one of the things when you start doing research on things like wildfire and wildfire smoke, that wildfires are in the vicinity that people make notoriously bad decisions. And now one of the reasons that people often don't survive is because they're making really bad decisions. And so that also fits in thematically with it. So I'm just gonna read a page or so here. And then I'd be happy to take questions about anything. Anything at all. You know, all right, so this is going to be a page or two from beginning of chapter 8. And this is like first time we see Shelley go to her boss's house. I usually don't read the hoarding parts because I find them so personally disturbing. But I haven't done. I thought I would do that tonight. So, after moving a towering stack of unread books out of the way, Shelley opened the door to Mimi's bedroom and waved a FedEx box over her head. "I'm here, Mimi." Shelley jumped up on her toes so her boss could see her. There would come a time when she would be too old for this, but that was not today's problem. Right now, she had to negotiate the path that twisted through the unstable trash canyon to the bed, all the retail shit that had accumulated in the room over the years. She could hardly remember what was beneath it all, except that it had been pretty nice at one point. Behind the mountains of stuff, the walls were creamy white, dotted with vague yet sunny paintings Jeremy had brought with him from California. There was probably an acre of pale, cushy carpet in the house, almost none of which was visible anymore except along the worn paths. And even then, most, like this one, were covered in a slick of glossy magazines and newspapers. The bedroom had long ago been abandoned by the house cleaner, Patty, who arrived every day with her cleansers and vacuum, did the kids' rooms and Jeremy's third-floor room, cleaned what she could in the kitchen, then left in disgust. There were so few surfaces. Mimi even managed to fill the ceiling. A crystal chandelier hung in her bedroom like a lost galaxy, tilted from the earthly weight of hanging clothes. It might as well have been be of some use as a clothes rack since it no longer worked as a light, the wires strained thin with worry. She and Mimi talked about creating a spot for a ladder so the electrician could come, but it was just talk. And yet, from the street, you'd hardly suspect a thing. The mock Moroccan was like a stop on the homes of the Hollywood Stars bus tour, with stucco walls of whispery pink, arched doors, and scalloped walkways. All it needed was a couple of palm trees. Mimi told her it was built by a professor of Middle Eastern studies at the university back in the 1930s. Mimi was that rare item, a Boulder native, or as native as a white person could be, meaning her people had arrived in a covered wagon sometime in the late 1800s, staying in the mild west of the foothills rather than continue the dangerous trek over the divide. Mimi would have preferred an arts and crafts bungalow like the house she grew up in, but Jeremy loved this odd pink duck. He had come from LA, so his taste ran a bit on the Disney side, as Mimi joked, not thinking about what that said about her. He was part of the reverse gold rush that happened after every earthquake, folks leaving California all a-tremble, arriving in Boulder with fistfuls of cash, paying too much for houses and sending the prices to Pikes Peak. Locals exiled themselves to the flat outburbs, clutching some of that cash and raising those prices too. If it wasn't the earthquakes, it was the landslides. If it wasn't the landslides, it was the wildfires. In spite of what Les said about the weight of embers, fire danger was fairly minimal on the Front Range. Minimal, but not impossible. There was enough risk that the landscaper kept telling her that the pines and chaparral along the back of Mimi's property needed to be cut down to create a fuel break. Mimi said no. I don't want hikers to be able to look into my yard. Mimi, Shelley explained, they've got a view that stretches out to Nebraska. They don't want to look into your old yard. Of course they do, Mimi said, and she would know. She'd grown up in the neighborhood farther down the slope and had felt the eyes of the higher community upon her. Shelley tried another tack. You don't want to lose the house over a few trees. You've got to think of your safety. Use your eyes, Shelley, said Mimi. This house is made of stucco and tile. It's fireproof. Fire resistant, not fireproof, said Shelley. Mimi did not answer and pouted for the rest of the day. Shelley never mentioned it again. It was not worth losing her job over. It wasn't her house. I'm going to stop there. And how old is Mimi?
Yeah.
Mimi's in her 40s. So, as I said, I will take questions about anything.
Well, go ahead, Pat.
So what is you said that you do all your scientific research as you're writing the book or before you're writing the book. What is your sources?
Sources, well, Love Science Times, and they, and that usually sends me off to books. I don't know, there's a blog that I've subscribed to for a couple of decades, as long as she's been doing it, Maria Popova's The Marginalia, where she is like constant. She does a lot of book reviews of. She combines science and poetry, and she is just as fascinated with quantum physics as I am. So that's where she does books in there, and then I'll read those. I subscribe to a lot of things, newspaper, magazines. Some of which my favorite was LAFAM's Quarterly, which is no longer. But, and the New Yorker does amazing work on climate. And, you read these articles, and then if you want to go further, then you just go online, and then the sources are usually there. So, yeah. But I'll be pretty dry stuff. I mean, not just, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There are points in the book where Les is sort of taking flight or I'm not sure, merging with, there's always a hawk around. Is this like magic or realism, or how are we to look at
How
what's
you to
going
read
on?
that? Yeah, so the chapters that are in Les's point of view. So Les is an alcoholic. And he's always drinking his Tito's nips come in glass bottles. So he's got to beg extra hard on the mall to pay for his Tito's, and plus they get recycled into shot glasses. But so Les, who's brilliant and drinking, and he's just lying around, and he was a cloud scientist, and so he's often on his back looking at the clouds. So how you read this is that Les is a shapeshifter. And if you had lived in Boulder or you spent any time there, everybody does shapeshifting. I mean, you go to the supermarket and it's posted like shapeshifting classes. It means that you inhabit the psyche of an animal, and that you are doing very deep imagination. It's shaman work, except it's, shaman work, it's made, I don't know, commercially, at least in Boulder. So when he is doing that, And his mind is just like doing his quantum physics thing. These chapters usually end with shape-shifting, where he inhabits the body of the bird, and then he flies, and he does different birds. So, but it can be read as sort of magic realism. Is he really shape-shifting? You would have to ask him. But, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You said you read a lot of different scientific reports and on climate change, and for you as a writer, what sparks the story? Do you have sort of the people and a character in a situation, or is there something in a scientific report that just jumps out at you and makes you ask, well, what if?
Yeah, so it's often a little of both. Actually, with short fiction, it's more a scientific thing will get me to write a short story. But a novel, like my characters have already their own personalities, and then, as I said, the obstacles are what I put in front of them. So the research, like to do all the wildfires in here, and I probably read 20 books on wildfires just to write this one chapter of how fires spread and the oxygen needed, and the downdrafts and the updrafts, and you know, the fires weren't ever supposed to come over the ridge, which they do on a more regular temp, because fires go up. But in fact, there are certain things, katabatic winds can send them back down and then, you know, blow the embers over. So usually then I'm looking for the obstacles like the wildfire, and then I'll read those 20 books. Sebastian Junger actually wrote a very good book on fire. Yeah.
Now, you live in Gloucester now, right?
Yeah.
Where else have you lived in Boulder?
Yeah.
What other places have you lived that affect your concept of climate or your attitude or, you know, like your
Yeah.
beliefs?
Actually, I grew up in the Bronx, and then in the suburbs, and then in Connecticut. So I didn't get, but it fairly like in my early 20s, I was in Boulder, and like 22, moved to Gloucester, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, okay.
So just being in Gloucester, you're next to this rising sea, you're very
Yeah.
keenly aware of.
You can see the changes just the time that you spend in Gloucester.
Yes, yeah, just being in Gloucester.
My daughter's out in Colorado. She's in Evergreen.
Oh, Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Yeah.
And they have a house in the hill, and they're living, they moved from Long Beach, California, which had fires. I mean,
Yeah.
saw fires, and not that close, but they could smell them. And their house there, and there are people there for the fire resistant, what has to be near their house, what can't be near their house.
Right.
The trees they have to leave, and it's like, it's just daunting.
It
And
is
they're
daunting.
And there's trees all over the place.
Yeah, and it's just really bad for lawns. And, you know, we think about like us, I mean, we can get in a car and go, but the wildlife can't. You know, the wildlife is screwed. They can run some, they can fly a little, I mean, but the birds can fly, but they can't take their nests with them. Those are gone. A lot of the environments are, of course, meant for fires, and it's not so, climate change has greatly accelerated because of droughts and the rising temperatures, greatly accelerated the intensity of wildfires, mega fires they're called. They used to be rare, now it's just mega fires all the time. There's no such thing as like fire season, it's year round. And basically a lot of these environments are meant to be, to burn, and that a lot of the seeds can't sprout unless there's burn. I mean, there's a lot, it is just part of the natural cycle. The problem is that we're there, you know, and we're probably where we shouldn't be. We should definitely not be sitting on the water. I mean, that's not what humans have ever done in 12,000 years. Humans have gone to the shore seasonally and then left it. So humans being along the shore year-round is, you know, because we think we've got some superpowers, and us being just like in the wildfire zones, that we think we can defeat that. And well, maybe we can drive away, but in fact we leave behind a lot of wildlife.
And there's fires in Gloucester, I think there's fires too.
Yeah, and
And Salem
And oh, yeah, I know, this past summer,
Yeah,
we had
so everywhere.
fires everywhere.
Yeah.
Fires everywhere, that's gonna be, it's just like, and, I have, like, you said, the fire preparedness, we're doing that in Gloucester, just like emergency preparedness, and I have a go bag now, just like everybody in California wildfire zones have go bags now. I have a go bag, because we're all gonna be going.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Are you working on another book now?
Yeah, I'm actually, what I'm working on now is speculative fiction. It's, I've been working on short stories that I started soon after. Actually, because novels take so long, I would take a break and write a short story. And I just thought I'd just try speculative fiction. It's set a couple hundred years from now, and everything is genetically, every living thing is genetically altered, and with the help of AI. And so that is, the first one I wrote got published in Slate.com a couple of years ago, and a column where they publish a piece of fiction, something like speculative fiction, and then they hire scientists to write about the science in the fiction. So that's how closely aligned that writing is with science. So now I've changed from wildfires and floods to I read a lot about AI and gene splitting. And in fact, I was even got a residency last year at the name at a residency at the laboratory, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, where the DNA was decoded. That was Dr. Watson's lab. And so I was there for a week just to have total access to geneticists.
I have another question. So, obviously what you're writing about is not a real, happy ending. It can be kind of grim stuff. And I think that, so how do you manage to get your message across and tell your story, and using the story as the vehicle, and it's still not get people to be despairing, or it's too heavy?
Well, so I think it is a happy ending. I think it is as happy as it can be. I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's say it's and I think that there's a lot of hope in that ending. I think it's purposely ambiguous, how that ends, so that you can sort of read into it. And it's also, hopefully Les has done his job in explaining how it can be turned around, but stop pumping all the carbon into the air. And if everybody stops, it's also a little bit like all the commentary on late stage capitalism that he makes people stop buying so much stuff that needs fossil fuels.
So that would be your message to a reader, or
Yes.
to just us? How could, we feel like we're doing something positive in the
Right, but it's
face of-
also like what happens is, it's about a novel of like people being careless. It starts with the baby, and that's the movement of characters going from a carelessness to caring. So, and that's also like the circle. So part of the hope is that people helping one another. Things might be grim, it might not be what they had expected or with their lives, but in fact, people are connecting with one another and helping one another. So that's sort of how I see that it was happy, that there were connections being made that forged that weren't there before. So, yeah. Is everybody homeless? Maybe. But not entirely. So I know, so I don't know if you were.
If you're, yes, I think I was the last person to have a question, so I
Yeah.
can.
Yes.
I want to thank you very much.
as we said, the books can be found online. I got a good tip tonight, bookshop.org. That's where I try not to add too much stuff to my house, but, you know, if you want to read more, the books are great. I've read a number of them. So, all right, we'll just enjoy a little bit more refreshments, and thank you all for coming, and we hope you'll be back the week of June 2nd with your books to donate, and the week of June 10th to buy some more that you can bring home.